Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's back to PSGL Tier 3, one of the few championships this season, which has already been wrapped up, but normal service has been resumed from our end of things. Alex is back. He's busy doing whatever he does. Exams, I think. So
Yep.
yeah, nice and normal. Finally, a bit of stability back on the PSGL Tier 3 broadcast. But Alex, how have things been? How are you? And are you looking forward to tonight?
I am. I'm very disappointed that I missed the championship battle getting wrapped up last week. Even if it is that early on, it's a nice thing to watch. But nonetheless, I am back, and I'm really excited for Saudi Arabia. What a track to come back to! Full of very quick twists and turns. So easy to make a mistake. So easy for the curves to kill you. I think we're going to see all sorts of drama, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, Saudi Arabia is one of those tracks, but high-speed corners, a lot of time to be made up, 27 corners in fact. A lot of them really not really considered corners as such in a more traditional sense of the word, because you don't really have to brake for a lot of these corners. It is certainly one of the more interesting ones though as we head in towards our race settings. Hopefully the source will pick up quickly. There we go. Perfect. All right, we're into it. We've got a couple of new faces today filling in. Obviously, only 14 drivers could be mustered today. Obviously, as the championship is wrapped up, a lot of drivers maybe not really thinking it's worth attending or have other engagements. I know it is like a Remembrance Day in the Netherlands today, so that could be also a contributing factor. But as it is going to be an interesting qualifying session nonetheless. 14 drivers out on track shortly. We've got Ben Marples filling in today. He's a new addition to the grid. Jensen Randall, of course, returning. Franek Morawiak is in the seat full time now, I believe. Benny Fabos also. So yeah, a lot of the same people that you've seen all season long still making a reappearance, especially those in the reserve driver role.
Exactly. Nonetheless, we do have a lot of drivers. I think Rishan, first of all, we'll talk about him. I think he's a qualifying ban. That's why he is instantly retired. So not very good for the constructors battle. I said I'd mention it, and I will. So currently, Mercedes and Alfa Romeo are equaled on 101 points with 2 rounds to go. So the drivers' championship might be wrapped up, but we do have an exciting constructors championship battle, which I know everyone is going to be very excited for. So definitely be careful. Definitely keep an eye out for the Alfa Romeo of Andre Molnar. The solo Alfa Romeo, actually, Lillian is not here. That is a surprise, actually, because I think he was in attendance. But nonetheless, Lillian already has the championship wrapped up. Doesn't even need to race anyway. But Andre Molnar is a solo against Noel Carmen and Rashawn Jacobs in these final 2 rounds.
Yeah, I will say that the run for second place in the championship is still very much on the table. I think there are about 13 points covering second through to about 6th. So a race win, or the next 2 events, of course, next week is Brazil, if I'm not mistaken. There's a couple of opportunities for the second place championship battle to be wrapped up. I think it is relatively close. I know that second and third are separated by 1 point at the moment, which is Noel Carmen and... Pardon? Rishan, right. And Andre Lopez is somewhere in all of that as well.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's definitely quite a bit to be unfolded lower down. But, of course, congratulations again to Lillian for wrapping the championship. He's been nothing but dominant all season long, and I think taking a well-earned rest this week. Obviously, a bit of personal turmoil in the middle of the season too. But impressive to overcome all of that and win despite it. I think it's been a really, really impressive championship campaign. Hope to see him up into F2 next season. Definitely worthy of the promotion with how he's dominated here in F3. So yeah, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the champion.
That reminds me. I think he's doing F2 for the rest of the season. That's why he's
beautiful.
not here.
Suspended then. Splendid news. Yeah, thoroughly deserving of that. I got to say, like I've casted quite a few F1 championships, and a lot of them have been down in the lower tiers, and as such, you get the occasional thing where things are a little bit messier for a lot of the drivers. They don't always have the same consistency, but it was really refreshing to see somebody like Lillian having that level of consistency and that level of pace throughout the entirety of their championship campaign. I think it was pretty clear from the start of the season, Alex, I'm sure you'll agree, that he was a cut above the rest.
Yeah, 100%. The amount of times he just dominated with no reply, completely deserving of the championship. As Phil McKee goes fastest with a 27.2. But yeah, you're right. Second place is still a battle. We still do have, I mean, for example, Timo Zelenkovic, who has just started his flying lap, getting a little bit of oversteer, but he is also going to be fighting for these top spots in the last few races. We saw, I think he won on his debut in Baku. I think that was his debut, if I'm remember correctly. Anyway,
I don't think he won on debut, no. And I think he had a win taken away from him due to a post-race penalty, if I'm not
that
mistaken,
was it.
also.
Yep, yeah, that's right, I think. But yeah, no, nonetheless, he's definitely a driver that we've seen to be quick. As is Liam Siemens, is he? Oh, and Franek Morawiak. Apologies for the 100% mispronunciation of that. 26.93, a very quick pace for just the first lap. Timo Zelenkovic is going to be looking to try and beat that as he heads through the second sector. Going through the swift left-right-hander into the curved glass-out section. He's got traffic ahead. Let's hope that it doesn't get in the way. It's going to be difficult to see. There you go. There's the Red Bull. Perfectly not getting in the way. There's also, I believe, a Haas there. But he should be alright. Going into the final corner. Heavy braking zone. Hitting the apex wonderfully. Getting the power down as quick as possible. Getting up the gears, open to DRS, staying as far left as you can to minimize the distance on track. It's going to be a 27.2, so not quite enough to challenge for these initial provisional top places.
Yeah, that's one thing also just on that last sector there I noticed that is a factor in real life as well as now in-game, is that there's a little bit of a visibility concern coming down that back straight, especially in these qualifying circumstances, and in real life they have moved that inside wall back a little bit in order to free up a little bit more vision as you round that big sweeping left-hander, which is essentially a DRS straight, or was. So yeah, I think that's one of those interesting things that obviously the game hasn't got the update on that yet, but the good thing is that you have the track map available to you in the game, which you don't have in real life, so you can see if there are cars approaching, or there are cars dawdling on the inside line. So yeah, that's an option, but I think, again, just a note for that, Jeddah is one of these circuits which is extremely fast-paced. They're on the throttle for a lot of the lap over in this circuit. Downforce is extremely important, tyre grip's extremely important, and as such, you don't really want to have any laps impeded or any kind of qualifying collisions because it will really mess with your flow for the entirety of the lap. One corner leads into another with this circuit. It's very much like a motorcycle track in that aspect. One of the hallmarks of like motorcycle great tracks is that the one corner affects the next, and then that further affects like a couple more. It's a bit of a domino effect, and I think that cascading cornering sort of effect is applicable here on Jeddah. I mean, look at this corner, for example, that we're going through here with Andre Molnar. One of the only real braking zones throughout that sector, and as such, it really does have a huge influence on how it propels you down this final and third sector, where you are pretty much flat out until the final corner. So I think it is important that the drivers are aware of what they're doing today. We've seen a couple too many instances in qualifying this season of drivers being a little bit unaware, not looking in their mirrors, receiving penalties and restrictions for that. So hopefully we see an improvement on that today at such a circuit.
Of course, what you mentioned as well, the track difficulties ruining your flow. One slight mistake can put your entire lap off, and that actually happened to Andre Lopez. He set a purple first sector and then invalidated due to a mistake a bit later on in the lap. So unfortunate, but nonetheless showing quite a good pace. That is pretty much, as I said, apart from Andre Lopez, that is the first run of laps, and it is Franok Morawiak currently leading the pack, who has had a season which has been quite non-existent, as his first race was China, where he DNF'd, then he had Mexico, where he managed to score good 8 points, but then he had another DNF, so definitely a surprise, I think I would say, to see him at the top, but a welcome one.
Yeah, keeping up with the prequel references I hear on May the 4th, that's very topical of you. Surprised to be sure, but a welcome one. But Franek Morawiak, yeah, let's talk about Franek for a minute. He has been a relatively new addition to this season, as you mentioned, coming in Shanghai. But I will say that he has had moments of showing pretty considerable pace. He has been one of those unlucky types, though. A bit like Jane Tripkov in that aspect, or like Bartosz Samaro, where a lot of their missteps are not really of their own doing, getting caught up in other people's collisions, races being ruined, not of their own volition, essentially. And Franek, at least last time out, was definitely in one of those circumstances. There was a bit of a kerfuffle, I think, at the chicane in Hungary, and he was caught up in all of that despite running in a relatively good position until that point. So I don't think it's particularly representative of where he's been at this season, and obviously as a late addition to Formula 3 here, that you'd expect that maybe he does take a little time to come online, but, you know, coming online here now, getting polled, or at least provisionally, in what, your fourth meeting in PSGL Tier 3, definitely a sight to behold. So positive signs for Franek moving in towards Season 34 if he does want to continue, but so far, so good.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. had a point and it's completely gone out of my head, so we'll leave that. Second round of laps just beginning to start. Who do we
I'm
want to
on
keep
with
an eye
Benny
on?
Fabos currently.
Benny
Ben,
Fabos.
yeah, he's just currently coming into the third sector now. We've got this big, like, important braking zone that I was talking about. He takes a chunk of curb on that inside, but thankfully for his AlphaTauri, it doesn't seem to unsettle it all that much. Now he's got that DRS open, limiting the distance he has to travel on the corner towards that final turn 27. The nose in nicely, but it's all about the traction on the exit. We've seen a couple of drivers hit the wall before there in PSGL, and obviously, famously, Max Verstappen in real life. So let's see what this lap time is going to be. It's very respectable from Benny. He managed to slot himself into P2 at 27.049. That is still a little way off what Franek has been pacing out with. And speaking of Franek, he's just coming into the second sector now. Let's see what he's made of. I lost Alex? Think I have lost him. That's a terrible shame. Okay. Either which way, Franek now currently on his second flying lap, looking to try and improve on what once was. Oh, are you back, Alex?
I am back.
Oh, wonderful.
Oh,
Well,
anyway,
I'll spin away with this. Franek, for briefly, he's currently 0.07 of a second up on his previous best lap time. So we're looking at a 26.8 here for your provisional pole sitter. Let's see what he can do in this final corner. It has been the ender of runs before, but is he going to get the nose in, most importantly? Yes, apex down. Just on the exit, traction picked up nicely. Fourth gear is all that he needs. Now going up through the shifts, getting it towards the line as fast as he possibly can. It is even better. It is a 26.7 from Franek Morowiak. He now puts himself nearly 0.3 of a second clear at the head of the field.
Yeah, very solid lap time from him. Absolutely, very stunningly quick lap. Liam Stevens goes P3, 1,000th quicker than Menno Nielsen in P4. Other people on the lap, Timo Zelenkovic coming through the first sector already 0.3 up. That would pretty much put him second if he carried on like this, and he's still got 2 sectors to go. Getting the traction down, going through this snaky section which leads into the flat out section. It's just very important to get the car turned in right here, otherwise it's going to cost you the whole way down this part of the track. DRS is going to be open. It's a very long DRS zone, actually, twisty DRS zone, going into the really important braking and traction zone as he sets up another purple sector, gained about another 10th. So he needs to find about 2/10 to try and challenge Franek Morowiak in this lap at least, coming down towards the final corner. Again, as you said, all about traction. He gets the nose turned in nicely. Important now to get the throttle down as quickly as possible. Get up the gears, open the DRS, and we'll see if it's going to be good enough to challenge for pole position. Oh, it's not quite. It's very close. I think he lost a bit of time in that final sector, but it does put him P2 for now. So a lap that's not horrible, but can definitely be improved by Timo Zelenkovic.
Yeah, I think the front of the car looked a little bit lazy for Timo in those 2 braking zones that we saw in the second and the start of the third sector. The front of the car definitely didn't want to turn in, or wasn't quite as compliant as I think he wanted it to be. Whether that was because he hadn't quite scrubbed off enough speed under braking, or whether that is just a setup type thing and he's making up time on the straights, maybe a bit more of a race car than a qualifying car that he's got here today. It remains to be seen. We obviously will have to check in with his next attempt around this Cornish Jeddah circuit, but for the time being, that's going to be the best that he's got to offer for the Ferrari driver. Second place, respectable, but look how many drivers we have in the 1 minute 27.0. Andre Molnar, as a matter of fact, has just usurped Franek Morowiak with another 26.7, just 0.06 of a second faster, but I just want to draw your attention to a 27.071, 073, 074, and 075 currently on our timing screens. That is quite incredible.
That is. It is not often that you see gaps that close, especially how you've got like 3 within a 1,000th respectively. Even Andre Lopez as well. 2,000ths ahead of that. That's literally nothing. That is literally no time, and they're still separated. And the fact that that's like 4,000ths can bring you up 4 positions, it's insane. It's great to watch how close these guys are. Definitely in for a thrilling final lap to see what these guys can do.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting enough when people get the same lap time, which we saw just this weekend in Baku in the real F1. But what I am talking about here as well is it's rare to see this level of closeness in sim racing as a whole. Obviously, there's a lot more equality across the cars in sim racing because it's equal engines, equal performance, that type of thing. But it is still exceptionally rare to see this after 2 runs, might I add, as well. These are runs that now people have had to improve their time, and we are still this close. Just to be as like a stat here, 3rd through to 8th is covered by less than 0.08 of a second.
That's mad.
That is a crazy, crazy little soundbite, really. That is the PSGL difference, ladies and gentlemen. This is what you could be racing in, if you're not already.
I didn't even realise that Andre Molnar went top. I don't know how I missed that, but that is a stunning lap time as well. Definitely bringing some competition into this final lap. Got to get into the garage quickly, though, to have time to go out again. He should be fine. But, you know, better safe than sorry. We do have the drivers coming out to start their final flying laps. All the pressure's on, mainly for the top 2. If they want to have a look at pole position, I think it's unlikely that... I mean, Timo Zelenkovic definitely could have gained a 10th on his time. He needs to gain about 2 tenths to have a shot at pole position, which is possible. But he does seem to be in that sort of 3rd to 8th group of a 27 flat, which I could see, you know, that sort of group moving up together.
Yes, I think you'll start to see the shift into the 26s here for all these guys. They don't have to find that much time to get there. But for Timo Zelenkovic, it is a bit of a chasm, like you say, between P3 and P2 and 1 at the moment. I think realistically, pole here is going to be about another 10th or maybe half a tenth quicker than what Andre Molnar has set. We should be dipping into the 26.6s. So that is quite a hefty bit of time that Timo Zelenkovic has to find if he wants to contest for pole. But first car out on track, if you didn't already know, is Felipe Sousa. Jensen Randall is... Wait, was Jensen Randall the first car out on track? I guess he must be. He's entering the final sector now, really hustling for this outlap. No, it was first sector. I'm lying to you. The track map confused me. So, don't let the data split thing confuse you. Jensen Randall's just crashed out, actually. Never mind. I just flicked over to him just to have a look at what was going on, whether he had actually just started a flying lap, and he just completely lost the rear of the car coming through the first sector. Lost his front wing, so that's going to be the best that Jensen Randall has to offer today. I don't think he's going to be able to get a lap in that's even going to be representative of what the pace he might otherwise have with no front wing. Anyway, Felipe Sousa, first man to get on going. Let's see what he's got. Obviously, he's not really going to be the exact front runners, and when they do start their laps or come towards finishing them, we will check in with them. But for the time being, Felipe Sousa in the McLaren had a bit of a tumultuous season, and he's already invalidated. So let's crack on with... Who do you want to crack on with? Go on, pick a driver. Pick a driver.
I will. The pressure is on... Menno. No, he's invalidated. Liam Stevens.
Liam Stevens. Okay, the pressure was on you there, I think, mate, to get the driver selected. Either way, Liam Stevens then. Let's see what he is cooking. Well, thankfully, he hasn't invalidated in that first sector just yet. There's still an opportunity to do so, though. This corner is the invalidation central, but he's got it nicely hooked up.
Did he hit the wall?
I don't know. It was very close if he did, but this is one heck of a sector here from Liam Stevens. That, unfortunately, though, is not improving. He is 700ths down on his previous best time. So, going to have to really try and put his skates on now through this second sector. There's only a few more opportunities, really, for him to make up a wealth of time, and this is one of them. He's just come out of it. It looked clean, but often when things look clean, they're not quite so fast. That's DRS now open all the way, running down to this final real braking zone before the final corner. This one now super important too, down by just under his time by 100th of a second, 15 thousandths if you want to be precise. Now trying to push his way towards this final corner. Got so much time to make up, but only 15 thousandths of a second would be enough to push him up into P5 at the moment. Of course, all those times so tight, so steep together, but now Liam Stevens comes to round the final corner, comes to try and cross the line. We'll see where he ends up. Timo Zelenkovic is out of the session. It is a purple final sector from Liam Stevens that puts him in the 26s, but not quite enough. Now, Franek Morawiak up on his time previously, but no, it all falls away from him. Andre Molnar not on a quick one either, so what about Andre Lopez? As he's now coming in to cross the start-finish line. It is going to be good enough for P3, but again, still not enough to get up towards Molnar and Morawiak, who will take top honours if Noel Carman doesn't improve, which he does, but not enough.
Same lap time.
I don't believe it. They
Oh
are
my
so
word.
close. Oh, what a qualifying session here in Jeddah.
That's
That
the
is
exact same.
that is the exact same. It's perfect,
That's
isn't it? You
mad.
got 908, 944, 944, 27011. What a ridiculously close qualifying session here. Of course, the front two today in a bit of a league of their own in terms of quali pace, but everybody else absolutely split by a hair's width.
Wow. Well, that was very, very, very close. I feel bad for Noel Carmen actually. So close to PU4, but not to be. But Andre Molnar, completely deserving of that. I mean, he joined late, didn't only got like one run to actually do that lap because he didn't have his third and he didn't have his first, and he's got pole position. Completely snatched it away from Franak Morawiak. I'm gonna get that eventually. But yeah, very close between them. It definitely shows that we have a good race on our hands. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one as well. With the qualifying times being that close, it sets up what is ultimately going to be an extremely tantalizing race. And Jeddah often invites carnage with how quick these corners can be. And the one thing you also got to remember is that Rishan didn't set a time there because of his qualifying ban. But all season long, he has been somebody who has demonstrated that he has the pace to contest with these guys at the top. I mean, he's third in the championship, for Christ's sake. He didn't get there by being slow. So he will be battling through the field too. And with all these guys being so evenly matched and dialed in, it's going to be one heck of an interesting race with a charging Rishan on the way. So, we haven't got long to set it up, but just to run through your order for the starting grid, it is Andre Molnar on pole, with Franek Morawiak in second, Andre Lopez takes third, and Liam Stevens heads up that second, well, finishes up that second row, with, I think, Noel Carmen slotting in just behind him as well. So Carmen putting him in a great spot to try and push ahead towards the final round of the championship to secure that second place for himself. We'll see what they can cook up today. I'm looking forward to this. Jeddah is a great circuit. It always provides great racing, so let's see what we've got.
Yep, very much looking forward to it. Very important to watch on the first lap for collisions in the back, collisions at the front, collisions everywhere, especially when it's such a tight, twisty circuit. The first lap conditions are so common here. So let's hope we don't have too many. Obviously, that don't want to kill so many people's races, but you know, a few just for the excitement is always a bit of fun, I guess.
Yes, always worth it. Just for the I was gonna use a bit more of an Anglo-Saxon term there, but just for the fun and giggles, shall we say? But yes, Jeddah, I'm ready. Street circuits are always one of those that we just look forward to, especially in F1 sim racing. So let's wait no longer. We have 5 red lights, and we are off to the races. It's Andre Molnar on pole, and he gets a cracking launch, actually. He's managed to just steep away, and Franek Morawiak not really able to respond. But Timo Zelenkovic up the inside of Andre Lopez. It's all pushing and shoving. Noel Carmen's getting his nose wiped. It didn't take long, did it, before we get collisions, Alex? You mentioned it in the build-up, and all of a sudden, it's right there and happening. It's given an opportunity, though, for the front two to break away. It's just like qualifying represented. All these guys tussling for position, and then the front two just clearing off now with that superior pace, because these guys have been caught up squabbling.
Yeah, that start by Timo Stankovic, he got a really good start and then just decided to send it into turn one. Made a bit of a collision with, I think it was Andre Lopez.
Yes.
But Andre Lopez has managed to keep P3. Let's hope he just stays within the DRS for his sake, I guess. In terms of tyres, everyone is on the hards. Absolutely no change there. Hard to mediums is literally the only strategy that works on F1 22. So let's hope for a change in that, actually, in the new game. But nonetheless, Timo Zelenkovic has made up a position, Benny Fables made up a position, and Menno Niessen made up a position. Noel Carmen didn't have the best start, dropping down into P8.
Yeah, I will say I think that is because of the Red Bull and Ferrari collision that happened ahead of him. Ended up wiping his nose. He had to take to the escape road a little bit. So all the other cars started to drive around his outside.
Yep, he is trying to come back at Menno Niessen here. They're trying to go around the outside of the final corner. It's made it into a drag race. Who's going to get the slipstream? Who's going to use the battery? Benny Fables trying to get the slipstream to Menno, but Noel Carmen using his battery and getting through. And now he's looking like he's going to make another move on Benny Fables, but he does back out of it, knowing, playing it safe. Meanwhile, Menno Niessen actually coming back at him there. Not quite able, though, to get the move just yet. And Noel Carmen can breathe as Menno does decide it's not possible anymore. So Noel Carmen up into P7.
Oh my goodness gracious me, what a great opening lap here in Jeddah. Andre Lopez has recovered some of that deficit to at least be within that DRS window right now. But in order to do so, he had to use a considerable chunk of battery. I don't know whether you want to check for me what the battery percentage is looking like for those front three at the moment, but I would wager that Andre Lopez has used quite a chunk more ERS than his competitors around him.
Quite a chunk, more like 50% more than everyone else. The top two are pretty much on full, and Andre Lopez is on 50%. One thing I did want to talk about, actually, real quickly, it's slightly off topic, but you know the F1 beta that happened last week? I actually got to do that, which was really cool, and the new game is actually so much better than this one, and I gotta say, I'm really looking forward to it. And also all the trailers that they released this week as well, the new breaking point thing, it does all look really cool, and actually really looking forward, to, league racing and the breaking point story, and it just, as a game, the quality is so much better. Like, I think Silverstone's completely been revamped. I think Austria's had a revamp. Yeah, it's really awesome.
That's great to hear, because to be honest, I don't think it could really get much worse. That's toxic of me, but I'll leave it out. Anyway, that is a fastest lap of the race being set, with now DRS being enabled. This is where this party is about to begin. Noel Carmen getting it a little bit weird coming through that first corner there, but he is going to be side by side with Benny Farbos as a result. In fact, Benny Farbos almost looked like he just let Noel Carmen through there. I don't know whether we got it wrong on the exit of turn 2, and as such, that subsequently allowed Carmen to just have a bit of a run at him through the subsequent set of corners. But either way, that is another position regained for Noel Carmen. Just one more until he starts to get back into his original starting position. But let's take a quick eye in with Rishan. What is his progress looking like? Well, he's only managed to dispatch Jensen Randall so far. You'd expect that he is able to get by Felipe Sousa relatively soon. But again, he's in a DRS train, and that is the killer of all race progress. If he wanted to really hustle, he should have gone for some different tyres, but he's trying to stick with the strategy, seeing if he can make it work when that pit stop window changes over. For now, though, the entire grid is still within this DRS train. There are no breakaways, there's no groups forming. It is this one long 14-man train.
It is. As expected, to be fair, when you got the tiers this high, driving this high quality, everyone is pretty much the same speed. You do get these trains starting to form. Everyone is within a second of each other. So yeah, it's just about, who can be brave enough to go for those moves without losing too much time. And one of those is Benny Fabus, as he has just got Mano Nissan in a drag race. So good move from him there, but Mano is not done actually. Benny Fabus trying to squeeze him, but they are going to go side by side into turn 1. But Mano's pushing Benny Fabus off the track very wide there. It's now going to be about the traction from turn 2. Mano Nissan is so much way ahead of Benny Fabus in terms of traction. Manages to get P7, but that was very, I won't say dirty, but it was very aggressive with the amount he pushed Benny Fabus off.
Yeah, I think there was no quarter given there between those two guys. They were going at it into the final corner, and then again in towards turn 1 as Fionn McKee exits stage right, coming onto the little back straight here. But nonetheless, still a good move for Menno to get done, as he needs to make some progress up the field too. He is also one of those people who can be considered in contention for that second place in the championship fight. So every point matters, especially when those around you, i.e. Noel Carmen, are those who are contesting that particular position with you too. So, Timo Zelenkovic did drop out of DRS briefly on that previous lap, but he is doing everything he can now to get himself back in. Up the front though, Franek Morowiak and Andre Lopez are both nearly losing DRS respectively, and as such, I think Andre Lopez has just dropped out. Okay, he has got DRS for this back straight area here, and will have it again for the front straight, but no ERS remaining for the Spaniard, and as such, the pole red is heading up to try and get onto the back of Andre Molnar out front. And whilst he is setting fastest laps to do so, I dare say that is coming at the cost of his battery.
Yeah, but to be fair, it's not too much more than Andre Molnar. It's only about 15% more, so it's not too much of a difference, but you are right. Oh, that's just a warning for Franek there. Andre Lopez, though, no more ERS. He's going to really struggle to keep with that top group, which I think we've seen quite a few times this season. And so we'll see how much that costs him in terms of position later on. If he's still able to be, in the train of Liam Stevens, Timo Zelenkovic, it shouldn't be too costly, as he can sit back and recharge a bit, because we do know he's fast. Yeah, it's just about what he can do now. He's got to be quite strategic with it. I don't think he should be burning his ERS at all, which he still is. But he's got to save it because the ERS, it doesn't actually have as much of an effect when you're less than 10%. That's why you got the recharging thing. Like that's why the light's flashing, because it's showing it's in recharge mode. So obviously you can still use it, but it has a lot less power than it normally would. As well as that, you're going to be slower naturally. So you want to try and be above 10% as much of the time as you can be. So I think at this point it might be worth not really defending too hard from Liam Stevens and just trying to save his battery, because he has got quite a gap behind to Timo Zelenkovic.
Yeah.
So yeah, he doesn't want to risk losing that.
Yeah, I think it's not a bad idea to just give Liam a run at the field now, see what he can do. I mean, ultimately, you're going to sit behind. You want to have a bit of DRS, so that you can recharge that battery more efficiently. And you don't have the pace right now without that battery percentage to have a run back at Franek and Andre in front. So let's give Liam Stevens a go. Let's see what the Englishman can do to try and get back onto the back of the Polish driver and the Hungarian out front. Both these guys setting the timing screens alight in qualifying, but they're doing it again here in the race. Liam Stevens is now throwing the entire kitchen sink at this lap. He's already gaining quite a bit of time on these two drivers, but he is burning battery to do so. He's back in DRS. What a stint here from Liam Stevens.
Yeah, the complete right decision by Andre Lopez and not to fight that, because he's now got himself back into the top fight. Well, Liam Stevens has got those two back into the top fight. He is in DRS, and I mean, God knows, maybe he has more pace to unleash. He's got more ERS than Morawiak there, so yeah, I mean, I was quite a surprise actually. I didn't expect him to get back so quickly. He's closed about half a second on this lap.
Yeah, this is on course for a fastest lap of the race here
for
Liam Stevens.
Yeah.
This is an electric lap on the hard tyres. I think they're maybe starting to come to him a little bit as well. I know a lot of drivers are a little bit hesitant on the hard tyres at the start of races in F1 22. They can be a bit of a fickle mistress when they're not totally in the window. But if Liam Stevens is feeling it and these hard tyres are working for him, then by all means, have a crack at it. And this will be filling him with confidence as well, seeing that lap time of a 30.6 rocking up as your fastest lap of the race. That's going to take some beating on the hard tyres. Of course, if the race goes on and the fuel comes down, the medium tyres come on, we'll likely see that lap time improved upon. But for the time being, that is quite the achievement from Liam Stevens. And he is now seriously putting Franek Morawiak under some quite serious pressure. I mean, he's got, what, 0.3 of a second to the back of him? He was at 0.2 at one point on that previous lap. The only thing that's keeping Franek alive here is the fact that he has DRS from Molnar in front. So this is going to be an interesting couple of laps here for the English driver to see whether he can get himself further up in these podium standings.
It is. Phil McKee retired from the race, deciding luck is against him. But there, Liam Stevens has just dropped Andre Lopez as well. So you might mention that. But yeah, so that's really not worked for Andre Lopez, letting him through. And now he's going to be under lots of pressure from Timo Zelenkovic. So yeah, I think it's now just about staying in that train for P4 for Andre Lopez, but with no battery, and he hasn't really saved any of it since losing that position, about 5% or so. So yeah, really coming back to bite him in the back, I'm gonna say. Coming back to bite him. Is that saying? I think it is. Anyway, it's and that's clearly not worked for him. So a bit unfortunate. He's now lost the position to Timo Zelenkovic. He's just got to try and stay with them.
Yeah, Andre Lopez, I think, a little bit hot-headed at the start of the race there, putting all of his eggs into the ERS deployment basket, and Jeddah is not a circuit which is particularly kind to ERS recovery either. Obviously, you do have like a couple of heavy braking zones, turn 1 and turn 27 most notably, but I think it is one of those circuits that is hard to recover battery on, and I think more than that is it's really quite punishing if you don't have the battery in order to respond to somebody. And Andre Lopez has been suffering with that problem for laps and laps upon end now. And Timo Zelenkovic, who's already closed in 4/5 of a second this lap, is now unleashed to go and chase down Liam Stevens and that leading trio.
Yep, we'll see exactly what goes on. You know, I really do think Liam Stevens, I mean, okay, maybe that pace was a one lap sort of pace just to push to get back into the DRS. You know, he was also using his ERS, but if he can show that sort of pace later on, that sort of fight, he has a real shot of winning this. Obviously, Andre Molnar, we've not really seen too much from him because obviously all he can do at the front is just pump laps in. And to be fair, he's also saving his battery.
I mean, Molnar is doing a sensational job at controlling this race at the moment. He is, what, 7.5 tenths ahead. He's just making sure that he's got a big enough gap when it comes to Franek Morowiak behind when the DRS is activated. He's not really using too much battery apart from where he feels he needs it, so just a little dab on corner exit of heavy traction zones like turn 27. We just saw a little bit of him using it there. But he's controlling right now. The Hungarian has really come into his own in the later portions of this season. He's been having a couple of good races. Had a bit of a spell of bad luck, but certainly doing a lot of good work here in the Alfa Romeo. And yeah, seemingly in control of this race here. A little bit of a moment on the curb there, but not enough that it's affected him too much throughout this entire sector. Keeping it nice and tidy. Lifting is good. He's just driving with precision. Driving with... It looks calm, I think, at the wheel of that car at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, as I said, we've not really seen... it's not really possible to see too much, apart from the fact that he's doing solid lap times. And he's leading the pack. He's not having to use battery. I mean, if you're leading, there's not much more you want to do. Burning out to try and drop anyone from ERS or anything, because they're likely going to get back in. But he's been pretty consistent lap times. They've all been sitting roughly around the 31.6, 31.5, 31.7 stage. So he's just doing it all he can. Really, he's doing a stellar job.
Yeah, he is doing a great job here. I think very respectable. One thing to mention, though, is that Andre Lopez has not been dropped this time by Timo Zelenkovic, and now what was a breakaway front 2 is now a breakaway front 5. So whilst the gaps between each of the drivers is still not insignificant, I think it is important to note that they are at least all in a DRS train with each other, and they are all also pulling away from Noel Carman in 6th place. Harman was, 1.1 seconds, and then it got onto the DRS straight, and now it's up to 1.6. So I think, if anything, that is also an example of just how strong DRS is here in Jeddah. So let's just keep an eye on whether Noel Carman can bridge that gap. We've seen Zelenkovic and Stevens do it both now. So maybe there's something still in the locker for Carman.
Yeah, let's hope so. Both Mercedes having a fairly quiet race. Apart from that, Roshan.
There is a couple of penalties that just come in there. Fabos has just been given another one. And Timo Zelenkovic has just received a 3-second time penalty too. So, at the end of the race, that's going to certainly spice things up a bit, I think, for Mr. Zelenkovic. But currently, that will relegate him quite far down the field. But we have 15 laps still to go. We have a pit stop in that as well. So, maybe there is some time to recover this and spread the field out if you're Zelenkovic.
Yeah, let's hope that doesn't really hurt him too much. It might hurt his confidence a bit, but hopefully that's just the worst of it. Yeah, Jeddah is a track where it's so easy to get time penalties. These 3 are not going to be the only one, are the only ones to get one. So I wouldn't stress it too much, especially as it's still really early on. But yeah, it's just something to keep in mind and that he's got to think about now. It is an inconvenience. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Meanwhile, back at the top, the 3 drivers still in the same order. Not really too much to report there. They're all just sitting back, saving their ERS. The battle doesn't really start until the first pit stop anyway, so there's not really much that they can do. It's more just the midfield pack guys, especially if you're sitting in a train, it's important to try and make positions up that train, so you can capitalize on mistakes and on tyre strategies, all of that sort of thing. So it's just about now settling in and starting to push for some of those mid-pack guys.
Yeah, no, you're completely right. So let's have a quick review of the race then at lap 11, soon to be lap 12. Let's have a quick review of where we're at. We've lost Fionn McKee. A little incident earlier on set him 7 seconds back of the rest of the field, and then ultimately picking up a 3-second time penalty, just thought worth retiring. Jenson Randall lost out on the early laps. Rishan Jacobs managed to push his way in towards P12, obviously starting at the back of the grid. But apart from that, we haven't really seen too much drama. Of course, there have been breakaway sects that have now been brought back together. But for all of this, Timo Zelenkovic, Liam Stevens and the rest of that, they have been on some pace. But I think it's going to settle down a tad here until we get to the pit stop phase. So, what is the pit stop phase going to be here, Alex? I think we're going to be coming in at around, lap 15? 16?
I think Noel Carman might be coming. No, he's not. He's just used all his ERS for some reason. And I'm not entirely sure why. Has he got stuck on or something? Because, oh, there you go. He didn't turn it off for a long time there, even when it was on 0%. That was really odd. Anyway, I'm not sure. I think that's lap 14 I was on the graphic earlier. That would make sense in terms of time, in terms of, like, you know, race distance.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you exactly. Timo Zelenkovic, actually, has just dropped out of the DRS of Liam Stevens. That is not going to be helping at all, especially as he's got a time penalty and he's just exceeded track limits to try and get back in, which has worked. So fair enough. Felipe Sousa, no, not Felipe Sousa. Franek Morawiak. I'm just looking at the track track limit penalties? There you go. He has 2, which is, you know, I said earlier, it's so easy to get one. He's nearly getting one. Andre Molnar has not got a single one.
Yeah.
So not only has he been leading, showing strong pace, but hasn't exceeded track limits once. So yeah, Franek Morawiak is going to have to look out for that. I don't think Liam Stevens has one either. So fair play to both of those guys. Timo Zlankovic back in the DRS quite comfortably now. Can start to relax a little bit again.
I feel like that track limits point that you just made there, though, Alex, is super representative of the drivers that we have and their way they're driving. But let's just quickly put a pin in that one. We'll revisit that one later because Franek Morawiak was dangerously close to the back of Andre Molnar and has now dove into the pits a lap early. So this is going to be the start now of the pit stop phase. Rishan Jacobs also taking that gambit. I mean, he has nothing really to lose from back there in 12th. So might as well take that gambit, get on those medium tyres and just hoon it around for a lap before these other guys start to really adjust or even come in for pit stops of their own. So this is where things are going to start to get spicy now. We'll keep an eye on what progress Franek and Rishan can make, but for the time being, they are both 7 seconds or further back adrift at the back of the field. So we'll go and revisit that pin that I put in that point. Andre Molnar, I think, really representative of what he has been doing this season and just generally how he's driving this race. He is comfortable, he is calm, and he is quick. But he's not overdriving the car, running out of track limits. And I feel that Liam Stevens is another one of those drivers who is very level-headed, very calm, and you can really see that in the way that he drives. So I think very easily characterized by their lack of penalties here. And, yeah, controlling the race, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah, that pit stop though. So Franek Morawiak, obviously on those medium tyres, Rishan also came in. It's time to, you know, get them to switch on to try and try and undercut Andre Molnar, who I expect will be coming in this lap. He is. So it's now time to see, can Andre Molnar keep his lead, or will Franek Morawiak get to the top of the stand? No, not standings. The bar. I completely the thingy
Climbing
on the
tower.
left. That's it. Yeah. So I was going to say is mediums on this track can warm up so quickly due to the twistiness of it. So, and I think we're going to see him actually coming out of the pits. He is going to be behind Franek Morawiak, because Franek Morawiak, I've got to stop repeating that, he's in the lead of the race. Andre Molnar, though, not able to do anything about it, and showing how powerful the undercut can be, because it's so easy to warm up tyres here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so tyre wear, it does slow you down a lot, as we've clearly seen here. Yeah, so Andre Molnar in provisionally in P2 now, and Franek leading the race. I think I'm gonna have to refer to him as Franek now, because
Yeah.
it's such a difficult to say last name when you're trying to say it a lot of times. But yeah, Liam Stevens maintaining his provisional P3. He was very close to Andre Molnar actually in the pit lane there. But,
yes, yeah, they managed to close right in, actually, which is impressive for Liam Stevens here. And I think this is going to be a little bit of a breakaway now. Oh, my goodness. Franek Morawiak is really hustling to try and get away from Andre Molnar here. He nearly broke 1 second, but the DRS reactivated just at the wrong moment for him. And now he is going to be in a world of hurt because that DRS is going to give Molnar quite a lot of extra straight line speed coming into these. It's like 3 DRS zones in a row. It's really brutal. Allows you to catch up quite significantly to the car in front, and as such allows you to really get an opportunity to overtake, which I think might be what we're going to see here in the next lap or two from Andre Molnar. He recognises that out front Morawiak doesn't really have any battery to work with. You can see that red light flashing on the back of the McLaren. And now that's Rishan Jacobs setting a new fastest lap of the race. I said it would be improved upon, and now Rishan has done exactly that. He's currently now in 9th place. The undercut has worked wonders for Rishan. Of course, still has that penalty to be applied after the race, so we'll see how it pans out long term. But so far, short-term gain looking quite profitable.
Yeah, exactly. So clearly, the undercut very powerful. He's not, well, I'm not going to say stuck behind, but he's behind Menno Nielsen, and he's looking like he's going to get a good run on him going towards the outside of this corner. Such a difficult move to do, but you know what? He's going to send it, and if he can just get the traction down, he's going to be squeezed by Menno. If he can just get the traction, and in which he does, he gets a good run, gets the battery on, and overtakes Menno Nielsen. So a great overtake there by Rishan Jacobs into P8, and next up is his teammate Noel Carman. Up ahead, Jensen Randall leading the race after not pitting.
Oh boy,
So,
what a moment.
you know, last to first challenge for Jensen Randall. I'm sure he's feeling all the pressure, of leading a race now. But he is probably going to be in this lap. I would be surprised if he stays out, which he does actually, not mind. But Franek Morawiak is in provisional lead, and he's not going to be though for long as Andre Molnar gets a very good run on him, and he's already into provisional lead P1 again. So the DRS proving very powerful there, and not really much Franek could do about this. It was on a main straight, and yeah, that's not really much to say about that, apart from, you know, he's in the lead. He had the DRS, and you know, I'm repeating myself here, but it shows how powerful it is. He's just sitting duck on the straight without it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's also added to as well. The woes are added to by the lack of battery that Morawiak has by comparison to Molnar. I mean, now it's not so bad. Molnar has had to use a fair chunk in order to get past Morawiak. But it has to be said that they didn't really... I mean, Morawiak had burned through his battery on 2 separate occasions in order to try and get ahead or try and, you know, keep Molnar behind. So, whilst that hasn't really worked out for the McLaren driver in the long run, the pole still sits in 2nd place in the net race standings at the moment. Jensen Randall is just staying out, though, for another lap. Hopefully he doesn't end up getting caught by these guys, otherwise that could cause quite the issue. He is just 2 seconds up the road. Anyway, now Morawiak, I'm sure, is going to be filled, invigorated with speed, confidence, and commitment coming into this final corner, as he too now has DRS to try and do an exact replica of what Andre Molnar did to him on the previous lap. Randall is not pitting, which means that if the current pace maintains, that Andre Molnar and his terrible group behind him will soon catch up to Jensen Randall, which could mean that there will be a fly in the ointment, a spanner in the works, if you please, and it might make this race quite a bit more spicy. Might even make somebody get in a bit of an accident or open up a gap, because that slow, hard tyre running Jensen Randall will be in the way, meddling and being pesky for all these drivers in behind. I think I've lost Alex again. I'm not sure why.
Sorry, I was muted.
Oh, silly boy.
That was an accident. Anyway, sorry, I'll say, yeah, a spanner in the works is what Jensen Randall is. But more importantly, in the grand scheme of things, I think Franek is actually in the better position here. If he can stay in the DRS train and charge his ERS, when it comes towards the end of the race, he's going to be the one able to make the move and get ahead, you know, and there's not going to be enough time for Andre Molnar to come back. So Andre Molnar looking to overtake Jensen Randall now. Franek is also trying to use ERS to try and do it at the same point, but there is going to be a bit of a difference, and it's so close to making contact for Franek, but Franek gets so much more grip in the corner, so much more traction. Jensen Randall surely in this lap, yes he is, so couldn't do any more damage to the top 3-4 fight. So, Franek, Morawiak, 7 laps to go, just needs to stay with Andre Molnar now for these next 6 laps, and then make the overtake and lead the last lap. And he should be able to win this race, but it's definitely going to be close, and it's going to be difficult, especially with the likes of Liam Stevens and Timo Lenkovic also there ready to pounce on any mistake that might happen.
What I will say, though, is what you mentioned about the battery not really holding true at this moment for Morawiak. If you take a quick check at the telemetry data, you can see that Morawiak has been using a fair hit of his battery. He's down to, well, was down to before that corner about 18%, whereas Molnar currently sitting nice and comfortable, 38% coming out of that corner and gaining. So whilst Franek Morawiak may have the DRS and as such may have the ability to recoup that lost ERS battery percentage quicker, at the moment it's not really transpiring that way.
Yep, that's very true. I think he was using it to get past... Well, actually, I don't know about that, because he was using it to get past Jensen Randall, I saw.
Just didn't want to be stuck behind him into the final corner.
But he has continued to use it, I guess, to close up the gap to Andre, which I don't think he really needs to do. I don't know, it's his judgment. Maybe he feels, not entirely confident with the gap as it is. Yeah, I do feel like he should be prioritising, getting that battery as filled up as he can for the final battle. But if he needs to use it to even stay within that final battle, then that's what he's got to do.
Yes, I completely agree. I don't know if you're having a couple of issues with your mic, though. We're getting a bit of feedback through your microphone. I don't know if you want to fix that. But for the time being, it is looking mighty spicy at the front of the field. I think it's going to be super important here for Andre Molnar to really try and make hay while the sun shines. You've got to remember that all of the DRS zones since the changes to Jeddah last year... Oh, I've just seen Molnar make a mistake. He was off track there. But all of the changes that were made by removing the DRS zone that was previously here and slotting it in towards the end of the lap instead means that all of the DRS zones are situated towards the end of the lap. Meaning, if you're able to break that DRS in the earlier portions of the lap, you're putting yourself in a really strong position to lead into that final corner. So this is where I think Andre Molnar needs to really think about his strategy here for the end of this race. If he wants to lead and continue to lead, he's going to need to try and break away from Franek Morawiak in the first portions of the lap.
Yes. I hope my mic's all good now. If it's not, let me know again. Yeah. Awesome. Yes. So the top three. Sorry, I missed what we talked about because I was on deafen, but I assume it's about the top three and their battle. Franek Morawiak is in the prime position. If he can just, I don't think he has the pace, in all honesty, because he's got, it's like what they say, you got to be like a second faster than the car ahead. Obviously, it's track dependent, so I only guess it's about a second faster to make the overtake. Probably not that much actually on the game. I just don't think he's fast enough to stay behind and then have enough ERS to overtake as well. So that's definitely something to look out for. He's keeping the gap at about half a second for now, which should be enough actually. With the battery and the DRS, we've already seen how powerful it is. It's going to be close. I can't stress that enough. It's going to be really close. I said I'll talk about the constructors, and I will. At the moment, I think Alfa Romeo beating the Mercedes. I'm not entirely sure of the point system, so I can't say that for certain. But that is definitely a good news for Lillian and Andre Molnar there. Lillian, I'm sure. Well, at least I'm not sure, but I hope he's still keeping an eye on the championship standings just to see what happens. But that's not important right now. Andre Molnar currently, he's looking really comfortable out there. He doesn't really seem like he's making any mistakes. He's got 20% more battery than Franek, because Andre's got about 40%. Franek has about 20%. But at the same time, Franek is really close, and I keep just evaluating. Ooh, it's Franek. That's a big snap of oversteer there. That's cost him a lot of time. He's going to have to use battery to close that gap back up once again. It's Liam Stevens. He tries to get a good run. He's not going to be good enough. Oh, hang on.
Oh, hello. That's a bit of a nose up the inside there from Morawiak, and that's going to invite Stevens now for a run because Morawiak had to get out of it in some way. The other thing to mention as well there is that Morawiak was using a lot of battery, not to try and overtake Molnar, but to defend from Stevens behind. He is now, well, was at one point just there, below 10% battery. Liam Stevens has over 50% when he crossed the finish line. This could still be Liam Stevens' race here. I mean, we mentioned that Molnar is being comfortable and not using his, but if Liam Stevens gets involved, this could be quite the spicy. We kind of really weren't talking about Liam at the just at the last few laps here, because we just thought, well, the DRS train being so powerful, it's going to be very, very difficult for him to get through and for him to try and get into a contentious position for this race win. But at the moment now, with Franek Morowiak struggling for battery percentage, once again below 10% here, you can see the red light flashing. This presents a really strong opportunity for the Alpine driver to steal away a second place or even a win from the two drivers who've been dominating this race from lights to flag.
Yeah, I think that was actually his plan. He's just been saving his battery. He was on almost 70% at the start of this lap, so looking very feisty. And if he can get past Franek now, he'll still have a lot of battery to then challenge Andre Molnar. And it doesn't look like he's going to try and have a look now. Franek with nothing to defend. Liam Stevens into P2 on the main straight. They're going to go side by side into turn 1 and 2, but Franek goes deep, and that is Franek Morowiak going deep into turn 1 and 2, and that's going to completely cost him any chance of fighting for it. And now he's had to concede the position. He's in P3. So a big mistake from Franek there, and that's inviting Timo Zelenkovic into the party, who also has 65% battery. So, yeah, Franek going from second to potentially fourth in these final few laps. Meanwhile, at the front, Andre Molnar has got about a 7/10 gap to Liam Stevens. Liam Stevens needs to try and catch up now. He's got to push now. And he's got to, well, he was already in DRS, so he doesn't exactly have to push, but, you know, he's got to save his battery, but still have the pace to close up to Andre Molnar. And then if he has enough battery to do so, will then, on the final lap or penultimate lap, be able to have a look at the race win.
Yes, indeed. That is exactly right. Franek Morowiak. I think we're seeing here what we saw at the start of the race with Andre Lopez. You remember when he didn't have enough battery because he'd used it all on the opening lap and he just started dropping back through the field? Well, now Morowiak is out of DRS from Liam Stevens, and he has got Timo Zelenkovic for company, who is now swooping around the outside of him here. And it looks to me like Liam Stevens is starting to get a few dress rehearsals on for a move here on Andre Molnar. We'll see what he elects to do. With the DRS open, there's no ERS being used here. Neither is there by Molnar. But it is safe to be said that Liam Stevens does hold about a 6 to 7% ERS advantage over the Hungarian race leader at the moment. Zelenkovic now also trying to close back in on this leading duo. And I think, unfortunately for the Polish driver, Morowiak is going to be left for dead in this battle.
Yep, I think he's just going to have to accept P4 now. I'm not going to say he's thrown it away, because I think to even get that far for that long is still a really good result for him. And he did have to use the ERS just to stay in that train anyway. So I do think P4 is still a really good result for him today.
He's going to end up P3 because of the 3-second time
penalty.
That's true.
Actually, that's very true. So P3 as a podium, I'm sure he'll be more than happy with that. But meanwhile, at the front, Liam Stevens is looking very feisty on the back of Andre Molnar. Obviously, you don't want to make the move. You don't want to make the move too early because that's going to leave you susceptible to an attack later on. So, yeah, it's going to be. I don't know. It just depends on when he decides to overtake. At the moment, though, he is looking very comfortable within 3/10. And you know what? We could see one now potentially. No, not quite. As Liam Stevens breaks early. But we are going to see him have another opportunity down this main straight. But Andre Molnar has superior traction. I don't know if you saw that, but he just gained about 2/10 from traction.
Flew away from him, yeah.
So much faster, yeah.
Out of that braking zone, just seems to fly out of turn 27 to get up onto that front straight. So I think if Liam Stevens is going to make the move, it's not going to be able to be made on that front straight. He's going to have to wait, and he's going to have to make sure it's done on the back straight on the last lap. That seems to be where Liam Stevens historically has been the closest in these last few laps. That seems to be where he has the advantage over Molnar, when he has the DRS for a longer period of time and can achieve that higher top speed. Seems to make advantage of it on the braking too. I think we can count Zelenkovic out of this one now with just 2 laps to go. He is 0.7 of a second back, and really not going to be able to make up that time, considering as the guy in front of him also has DRS. So unless these two start really going at it, I think this is really a 2-horse race for the race win at the moment. So Stevens still sticking with Molnar through this first sector and second sector, where Molnar has historically been considerably better than his competitors. This time, though, Stevens is sticking with him and is now within 0.4 of a second coming into this second DRS zone. Now going to open it for this back straight. This is where he has had the advantage all race long. Stevens, is he going to look for the move here? No. Okay, so into the braking zone, keeping it tight. But let's just watch this traction from Molnar again. Gets out of the corner so very well. Still yet to be using all of their ERS, so it is going to be a last lap plunge here, Alex. Let's see who's got the gallstones for it.
It is, and I think the traction there was just purely ERS use, in all honesty. Or at least it was in the second phase, but Liam Stevens has now got a momentous job to do in this final lap. He's got to stick with him and he's got to overtake. There's about 1, maybe 2 places he can do it. Obviously, you've got the 2 DRS zones in this lap. They're back to back. So if he can use the first one to close up and the second one to overtake, it's not looking impossible for Liam Stevens as Timo Zlenkovic gets another 3-second time penalty. That won't affect anything though. But Liam Stevens is going to have to stick with Andre Molnar, and the gap is already at about 0.5 of a second. So Liam Stevens is going to be desperately screaming out for that DRS as soon as possible. Liam Stevens, here we go. He's going to switch the battery on. And he's going to open up the rear wing flap, and he's got to use his time to close in now. He's not going to use battery because he wants to use it on this last stage, and you can see how powerful the DRS is, but this is when it all matters.
Oh, he hit the wall!
All the DRSing, but he does hit the wall. He's gone on the car that's completely unsettled the car, and that's through any chance of overtaking Andre Molnar on this final lap. And on the last possible moment, he's thrown a potential win away. I feel so bad for Liam Stevens, but Andre Molnar goes wide at the last corner. But that's not going to change anything. He's dominated the race today, and it's Andre Molnar who wins in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, great performance there from Andre Molnar. Lights to flag, really. I feel bad for Liam Stevens. He really did leave it all out there on the track today, including some paintwork on the wall. That is quite something. So again, really big props to Liam Stevens. Did a great job, really showed what he's made of, but unfortunately today, it wasn't quite enough. Had just made that little bit of a mistake, but he really was putting everything on the table, put his car on the line in that final lap as well, took all the risks, and that's what it took today to try and beat Andre Molnar. But he was in a league of his own, a class of the field, pole and victory, an absolutely spellbinding performance from the Hungarian.
Yep, well done to Andre, completely deserved of that victory. Yeah, Liam Stevens as well, very unfortunate at the end there. Sorry, throat's gone. Very unfortunate at the end there, but still a very good drive from him as well. As well for Franek, Morowiak only managed to get P3 in the end, but certainly not a bad performance from him.
No, not a bad day at the office, especially compared to some of the previous meetings that Morowiak has attended. So really good to see him finally getting a good run of it and finally getting an opportunity to show what he's made of today. He has definitely performed. Timo Zelenkovic again with another disappointing sort of race finish there. He had the pace for a 3rd place finish, but a couple of mistakes have left him out of the points, or out of those podium places, I should say. Noel Carman comes home in 5th place to try and consolidate that 2nd place in the championship over his teammate Rishan Jacobs, who came home in 7th with that 3-second time penalty. Felipe Sousa holds on for 6th place. A little altercation in the last lap made that Andre Lopez ended up coming home in 8th, with Menno Nissen in 9th, Korndebacker 10th, and then to the non-point scorers of Benny Fawas and Jensen Randall. Ben Marples and Fionn McKee were our retirees today here in Jeddah. And we have one race left of this PSGL season. It is Brazil, and that'll be next week. I'm looking forward to Interlagos. It's a great track. What do you think about it, Alex?
It is such an iconic track. It brings great racing, and it's definitely, deservedly, the finale, the track finale.
Yes.
Season finale. That's what I meant.
Been the season finale in real life a couple of times too, but yeah, a really interesting track. One of the ones that often provides great racing. It is the finale track in F1 Esports too, if I'm not mistaken, for the last few years. So that should be an interesting battleground to watch our drivers do battle next week. Same time, same place. PSGL Tier 3. Be there or be square. We'll see you then.
This broadcast was brought to you by GT Omega, proudly supporting PSGL.